Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. So this morning I came down with my coffee just to kind of run trains, and I like to just look around and see if there's anything that can be improved or new ideas or, you know, whatever, just kind of soak it all in and figure out new things. And I think I came up with something that might be really beneficial. One thing I've been trying to work on to improve upon is the yard. Originally, this yard was just going to be a little transfer yard. It wasn't going to be anything major when I first planned it. But little by little, I started getting more involved in it, and I wanted to make it a significant, job with a yard master and an assistant and trim job and all kinds of things. So the first thing I did is I added another yard on the other side as an extension to be able to, store trains that are either just coming in or being reclassified and stored back there. And that's why I added this line here to connect from that yard to the other one. But I also added it because my exit and entrance points on both ends of the yard, but particularly on this one, is very short. It's here's the main line, and it just basically comes into the yard, and then you're already at the ladder. So if you're going to do any work here, you would have to use this track as a lead, which is long enough. I mean, you can go all the way through on the outside here, and that's a significant yard lead before you start getting into the industry here. So, even if you have to break the train up a little bit, which I never do, you still have room to shove back into the classification tracks here. But again, I was never happy with the fact that this is so abrupt and so tight here. So what I did as a way to make things a little bit easier is that I added a switch here. And I explained this in the last video, or a few videos ago, and I made a reverse loop that goes in and under and spits out here. Now that's actually it's been working out great, because a lot of times the trains will come in one direction and I want to turn them around to put them in the other direction, or I need to spin them around so that I can actually shove back into the classification yard, when they're facing this way. So by going that way, I can use that long lead that I just showed you and shove back here. So that's actually great, but it also acts as a way to get the train out of the way to be able to do other things. Now on this side, it's even worse because it goes under, and then when you get to the other side, you're running into this river scene here, and this river scene didn't allow me to go over with a yard lead. So what I did is I made a little stubby little yard lead. It's very short, just up to here, as much room as I had. And I did that so that I can at least detach from the train and get the locomotives in here and then running back into the shops. So I rarely use this side for shoving, for classification, because there's not enough room to get a train in here and shove back into those yards, into those tracks. So the easiest thing to do is use that reverse loop that I showed you and spin it around and go the other way. But, it's a little bit of a pain to do that. So I was walking around thinking of ways to change that. One idea I had was to go under this roadway here, and then come out here and then just extend it up to here, which is not that much longer. I mean, it gives me a little bit, and it's also a very tight turn. And I don't even know if I have the clearance to get like auto racks and like double stacks and stuff like that under there. So I was like, I don't know if I want that. The other idea was to lower it and kind of go under and somehow, like cover it here, but that would be hidden, and now we're dealing with the slope, and I didn't want to have any kind of slope tracks on the yard if I can avoid it. So what I thought of was going over the river once again, which I think might be the solution. Taking this track and kind of curving it so that it crosses here, and then going over the river. Now, here's the thing: when you go over the river here, you're crashing right into this industry that I had in place. Luckily, this industry is not permanent at all. It's just kind of sitting there, and I just added this just to add another industry. But I think what I'm going to do is connect it to this track here and use this track to create the lead that I'm looking for, and then this will be the exit and entrance point on Main 2. So that would give me a very, very long lead, even though I have to cross the bridge one more time, cross the river one more time. But I think what I'm going to do is add a little more bench work here. I don't need much more, but just a little more. Might even work out nicely because it'll line up with this here. And that'll give me enough to get the track over, make another bridge here, which I didn't want 3 bridges necessarily over this river, but, whatever. It's more functional, and you can still see the river because it's separated enough. It'll be over here, and it's only one track. So I'll make it, narrow, and I'll make it so that so that the piers are very, there's not a lot of them, so you can see right through. And then what I'm going to do is make a dam, like a small dam here, or a little drop here, so that the water is actually a little lower. This way the seam doesn't look so, obvious, and I'll just run the water down. It'll be like a little cascade here, tiny bit. I'm talking about a half inch, and then it'll pour into here. So maybe I'll even round this out a little bit so it looks a little bit more just nicer as far as like the scene goes. So anyways, so what I'm trying to get to is the functionality of it would be that I would cross here, hook up to here, and then that would give me the lead that I need, and it would spit out on track 2. Now, the nice thing about the fact that it spits out on track 2 is that, I can first of all, I can put a signal here, and I still have my signal here for everything that's already happening. So that'll work out nicely. It's not like I'm interrupting any kind of like block or anything necessarily. So that will continue, obviously, onto the track 2. But now here's what I'm thinking on the other side. So the opposite side, remember we had this lead here. So I think what I'm going to do is break up this track right at this point here. Right here. Put a switch going this way. That'll go over. Now I already tested the clearance. This is the tallest car that I have. So plenty of clearance if I go over this way. And what's going to happen is if I go over this way, now I can run a track elevated here and start kind of going down a little bit at a time, it's not a big deal because, if I have a little slope here, it's not terrible because I already have that long lead that's flat. So any shoving would really just happen there. If I need a little bit more, I can come out. But the point is that I want the trains to be able to enter and exit almost like without getting into the yard at all. I want them to be able to fit into the main or the lead and not interrupt what's going on in there. And then eventually, when they're ready to take the train in, take it. So anyways, it would continue this way. And I already have kind of bench work set up for this. I just got to extend here. It would run this way. I only have to lower it a little bit. I don't have to go down that far. And then this support, I'm going to move to the outside here. I'm going to hook it up there. And then the track would go through here, which is plenty of space. Land here, and then this switch would basically, it's upside down, but it would be basically a number 6 because I have a little curve here. I could put the number 6 here, and that would be the way to get the track to connect onto main number 2 once again. So it's cool because they're both, it's on opposite side, but they're both connected to the same track, which is, I think, a good thing. And maybe you guys can let me know if there's a better way. I didn't want to hook it up to this track because, first of all, I'd have to take a huge dive down to there. And secondly, it doesn't make sense because that's kind of that's not even CSX territory anymore. These are. So I wanted to be able to at least get into the point where I can, cross over. Now, I'm looking at it right now and, now, see, this is why I do this, because I think there might be a better solution. If I put the switch here, now I can come out into the signal and also have the opportunity to cross over. That might be better. All right, I'm going to do that. And it'll be a situation where I don't have to drop the track. I could just keep it high, right, the entire time. This is all the same height, and I could just kind of connect it right there. So now it'll be all level. Yes, this track will be kind of under, but I'm going to make it open grid here, like one of those bridges that have a lot of supports, but you can still see through. Ooh, that's going to be good. And then I'll turn here, hook it up right there, and then I'll be set up for the signal to allow me into the main line, and then potentially cross over here on this crossover that's already there. My basement is, I like my space, but it's limited in that there's a lot of interruptions, because I can't get just one run without having some kind of interruption. And what I mean by that is, for example, it's basically three quadrants. This is the first quadrant, so this is fine, but you have to narrow the track work here because of the staircase. So that's the first interruption. Then you get into the next quadrant, and you're fine until you get here because there's a door here. So I have to have a gate, and then I don't want to have a lot of things happening, on a gate, even though I already do. But I didn't want to add another one that's going to potentially be a problem. So that's an interruption. And then you get into this quadrant, it's all good. And then you have the utility closet back there, so another interruption. So that's why I'm having trouble. Like if I had one big run on one of these quadrants, I could just do the yard open, and it would be a lot easier. But that's what the situation has been from the start of this build. And I didn't want to make the whole train layout, just a yard, and then a little bit of mainline. So I wanted to make sure the mainline was long, and realistic enough to get long trains in there, so I can run long trains. Anyways, so I think that is actually going to be great, and I'm really glad I thought of that while I was making this video. If anybody has any suggestions or recommendations or red flags, and you're like, don't do that, please let me know in the comments below. Hopefully I can figure something out. But I mean, it's functional. It's not like I can't run trains and run sessions with the situation that I have right now, but it would be really nice if I could, for example, if I have a train coming south, if I can come in here, take that turnout here, and very easily stick the entire train in this whole run here. I have all the way up to the signal right here. That's a long run. Okay, on the other side, it's not as long, but it's still, I mean, I could, let's see, from this point on, and I suppose I could move this turnout to here if I want to, and that will give me even a longer run. Yeah, I might do that all the way through, across the river, across the road, and right there into the ladder. It's not ideal that I have a lead going over a road, but this is just a country road, and if I have to block it, I block it. I guess that doesn't really matter. So let me know what you guys think. All right, thanks for watching.